Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Newark Collabcast, a show where we talk a big game and our goals are the same. This podcast is a production of the Newark campus, which houses both Central Ohio Technical College, or COTC, as you might be familiar, and the Ohio State University at Newark. My name is Blake Baker. I am the marketing writer on campus and, obviously, the host of today's episode of the Newark Collabcast. Now, both of these institutions, Ohio State, Newark, and COTC, operate under a cost-shared model, and in the smallest of nutshells, that essentially means they combine resources and funding, they share physical spaces and facilities here on campus to save money while still supporting students through a number of services that they offer. And we are honoring the 55th anniversary of this rare and remarkable relationship throughout 2026, and along the way, you can use this show as a guide through the nitty-gritty of this great campus. It's a year-long celebration, and today, we're celebrating all the ways that this campus facilitates student success. I've got a couple guests alongside me who will help us navigate that topic today, so let's dive right in. First, Jamie White, Director of Retention and Student Success Initiatives at Ohio State Newark. Jamie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
And Troy King, Director of Student Success in COTC's Gateway Enrollment Center. Troy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so I mentioned at the start that both these institutions' goals are the same. And I think we can probably agree that perhaps the primary goal is to see students succeed, right? But it might be helpful to kind of more narrowly define, more clearly define that goal for our listeners right off the bat. So Troy, I'm going to start with you. As it pertains to students here, what does success really mean and how is it measured?
So for us, student success is essentially making sure the whole student is able to facilitate their journey through the academics, through the classes, but then also be successful outside of the classes with all of our personal and academic resources. And for us especially, we're looking at not just how they're doing in the classroom and through that academic journey, but also beyond that. We want to see our students meet their goals, whether that's transferring to a 4-year college or university or, getting a job in the field that they're looking for as well. So for us, it's very holistic. And of course, there's the data metrics that are within success, course completion rates, passing those general education courses and things like that. But we really care more about the student succeeding in terms of are they meeting their academic and personal and career goals.
Yeah, a little bit tailored toward the students.
Exactly.
Yeah, wonderful. Jamie, anything to add to that?
Yeah, thanks, Blake, and thanks again for having me.
Yeah.
So at Ohio State Newark, we, as Troy mentioned, it is the wraparound student success perspective. And we honestly believe in a student's holistic success, so supporting them both inside and outside of the classroom. Success is defined in many different ways. Yes, so we've traditionally used metrics to define success, like student retention from one semester to the next or from 1 year to the next, persistence in major, graduation rates, job placements, and just overall how the student's experience is at Ohio State is what we consider a success story as well. We also have metrics that are mandated as reporting as a public institution in the state of Ohio and others outside of Ohio State that also look as how do we define success. So it is what the student is looking for as well as what we traditionally define as success on campus.
Yeah. Great. No, I think that's very helpful context for us to start this conversation. So thank you for that. Thank you for establishing that. From my perspective, and I think from the conversations we've had, it seems like part of your job is to kind of keep up with the demands of an ever-changing student population, right? So, and we talked about the specific student populations of COTC and Ohio State Newark on our previous podcast episode. We won't do so too much here, so I direct you to that episode if you're curious. But I think it suffices to say the academic preparedness varies greatly between these students. And as the students' needs change and evolve over time, you would like to think that these approaches to student success evolve with them. So, Jamie, how has that approach changed over time? What has your experience been on that front?
Yeah, so that's the exciting part for me, right? Moving away from the metric-centered focus into relying now more on how our students tell us how they define their success. And so we integrate that into this traditional definition. And that could be a student that wants to transition to the Columbus campus or transfer to another institution. They all have different goals, as Troy mentioned. And so what is the student trying to achieve? Do they only want to get an associate's degree or a certificate program? Are they planning on taking a few courses and going out into the job field? They build that success definition in ways that also could be skill building or co-curricular experiences. They want a great experience. And so their success is also dependent upon what that experience looks like. And that could be meeting new friends or joining a learning community. A lot of them are focused on transferable skills as well. So thinking about what's beyond these doors outside of campus and getting into their careers and their life goals. And that could mean they're looking for leadership opportunities and student employment, job shadowing, internships, building problem-solving skills. So we want to work with students to build that personal success plan that's focused on what goals and centered around what they're wanting to achieve during their time here.
Yeah, I like that practical application of some of this stuff too that you're applying.
Yes,
that's really
and then
great.
we mix that into our metrics focus as well. And so it's a combination of a good little formula, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Troy, what about that? What have you experienced in this?
I mean, Jamie hit the nail on the head. You know, it's all about the student experience, what the students' goals are, and having a really student-centered approach to student success. It's not just about we're offering tutoring in math. It's about, can we help you with your time management skills and some of those soft skills? Can we offer some directed, individualized coaching for what you're looking for in order to help you meet those goals and, you know, pass those classes as you're going and then get beyond that to the transfer you're looking for, to the job you're looking for, and things like that. So, you know, I don't really have too much more to add to that. I mean, Jamie, like I said, that was the perfect answer to that question because it is about the student-centered experience and how do we provide personalized services for each individual student as opposed to just general academic supports.
Yeah. Fantastic. I can tell you're both very well versed in this. Obviously, you've racked up a lot of experience here on campus. Troy, I believe you mentioned you've been here for 6 years at COTC?
That's correct.
And Jamie, this is year 20 at Ohio State Newark?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, I don't mean to date you there.
20
but
wonderful years.
The experience has really been banked, and I think that you two are really great authorities to speak on this absolutely on a podcast. That's why you're here as our experts. But I think you've also earned the trust of the leadership here on campus to kind of do what you do. Troy, how have you and your team over the years worked in tandem with campus leadership to shape the approach to student success here?
So for us, campus leadership really helps set that vision and helped us make the transition from being a very academic support oriented to being a very, you know, holistic student success center and having that new framework based on what our students' needs were. The leadership are the ones looking at a lot more data than we are at the time, and then they give us some of those directions and say, we need to serve our students in a more holistic manner. And then it's also in working in tandem with campus leadership that we're able to get the support that we need to offer those services, like the individualized success coaching, like our student resource center for basic needs support and things like that. So, you know, it's a really close partnership with campus leadership, both to help set some overall direction and help with the vision, and then to support that vision once we're on the ground kind of rolling with it.
Yeah, well said. And Jamie, I know there's been, in your time, you've seen two leaders here now, one long time and Dean and Director Bill McDonald, and now Matt Smith. What have you experienced in terms of working with the campus administration to kind of execute your goals?
Yeah, it's really been great to have campus leadership around a student-centered approach around everything that we do, from like our strategic planning to like our practical everyday practices and procedures and things. We never lose sight, and leadership helps us in that, and never losing sight of what the student stories are as we consider what we do around student success and what we're working towards for the future. We do acknowledge that those needs change every year. We are a primarily first-year campus for a lot of students that may transition to the Columbus campus. And so we have the support from leadership that we can continue to reevaluate our programs and what we offer so that we're meeting the needs of what our students are. And that changes every year. At the heart of what we do, and like you mentioned, the 20 years of doing what I love doing makes it easy for us to continue to remain focused and student-centered in what we do.
I can tell there's a definite passion behind this as well from each of you. It's kind of radiating right now, which is very exciting. And that makes you great leaders of your individual departments or key cogs within those individual machines. Jamie, for you, that looks like the Office of Retention and Student Success Initiatives at Ohio State Newark kind of falls under the Center for Student Success umbrella. So under that umbrella in Ohio State Newark's Center for Student Success, what would you say is the specific role of your department?
Yes, thank you. So our staff are trained in having a broad knowledge of many different areas on campus. We do serve all Ohio State Newark students. So our services and resources are available for all students. So we really want to help students take control of their own learning, equip them with the resources and support that they need to be successful at Ohio State, but also beyond as well. I will say that there are kind of two different types of students who utilize our office. Students who have previously been successful and want to ensure that they have that success and that smooth transition, adjusting to the academic rigor when they start taking Ohio State classes and helping them build any learning skills that they might have. And then we also have students that encounter some challenges along their academic journey. College isn't easy for anyone. And so whether that may be personal or academic challenges that they face, our team is amazing, absolutely amazing at working with students to help them find solutions. Those academic challenges that I mentioned that we help students support could possibly be them falling behind in a class, not doing well, struggling with reading comprehension. I don't know how many times I've had to read something 2 or 3 times, right? And so building those reading comprehension skills, those critical thinking skills. And again, it could also be personal challenges. So our team is trained in some educational psychology methods to assist students with like behavioral methods, with procrastination, self-regulation, time management. We also support students who are neurodivergent learners. So there are very different types of learners that we encounter here and we support. And those students may benefit from more ongoing support and regular check-ins. We also help students with personal challenges such as financial and transportation, housing. Maybe they're missing a lot of classes. But all of these things are things that impact a student's overall success in college. Whether it's inside or outside, it doesn't matter. They're all just as important. So we really, within our team, help students advocate on behalf of themselves and inform them about what options they also have in regards to petitions and appeals. It may be very challenging for them to navigate through some of those processes that we have at Ohio State. Ohio State is huge, and it can be hard to navigate your way through. And so having the team that we do in our office to help students support them in kind of that navigation of pathways is something that is very amazing that we can offer for students.
And some of these larger picture ideas, I think, are manifested through specific support services like Math Learning Center, Writer's Studio, Tutoring Center. Those kind of fall under the Center for Student Success umbrella as well. How much does your team facilitate or support those specific services?
We work very closely with Dr. Bruce Weaver, who is the Director of Academic Support Services. And all of those centers that you just mentioned, we had the opportunity several years ago to restructure our Center for Student Success so that it really encompasses all of these areas. Dr. Weaver's areas within Tutoring Center, Writer's Studio, Math Center. It allows for an easier access point for students. One place for them to go. They can come to us. We can make easy referrals to our academic support services offices, and it really gives an opportunity to share how our campus defines success. And so we're student-centered, we're holistic, and we believe in now creating this Center for Student Success that encompasses all of them.
Very nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, turning to the other side of the house now. Troy, as we mentioned, you're under the Gateway Enrollment Center, what I like to call kind of the one-stop shop for all things enrollment admissions on the COTC side. How is your team within the Gateway structured, and what specific resources does it provide to help COTC students?
Sure. So we're kind of a wraparound service within a wraparound service. So the Gateway Enrollment Center includes all of sort of those administrative pieces for students. So records and transcripts, academic advising, scheduling, planning a schedule out for their time here, and then enrollment navigation and admissions, new student orientation, and things like that. And so part of the goal with, as we were doing our restructuring, was, putting student success at the forefront. So integrating it with, as students are coming in for their admissions items, that they understand these resources are first and foremost, at the front of their minds, and that we're prioritizing this for them. That, they're doing admissions, they're coming in for advising, and student success is right there with them in tandem. So, and then we're offering those holistic wraparound services within that broader umbrella of the Gateway Enrollment Center. And so that includes those traditional student success services like the student success coaching on soft skills and that how to be a college student type of thing, and then the tutoring. But then we also add in those things like testing center and, additional workforce certifications that students can take with us in order to enhance their experience within their programs, get a little resume boost, and then our personal resources through the Student Resource Center. And so those include, actually, I mentioned we're doing this on the front end as well. During the new student orientation, we have an optional survey for students to disclose any kind of additional services they might need, any gaps that there might be in their basic needs security, whether that's food, childcare, housing, things like that. And our Student Resource Center actually processes each one of those surveys, collects community and campus resources, and helps maintain those additional community relationships to put students in connection with those. So really early on, we can help these students and facilitate their learning by helping them outside of the classroom as well, whether that's with technology assistance, getting them a laptop if they don't have one, or getting them connected with our campus food pantry here at Newark. And you mentioned passion as being a really important part of that, and I think that's really at the crux of the student success and how we do kind of what we do. I mean, even when it came to our extended campuses, so COTC has campuses in Pataskala, Coshocton, Knox, and then also our campus in Newark here. It was the student success coaches before we had the courier service who were, loading the groceries in the back of our cars and making sure those got to the extended campuses. Wow. So we're really trying to provide that full holistic student support within the broader umbrella of enrollment, starting at that front end and then all the way through with whatever a student's needs may be up until, they're ready to graduate with us.
Great. That's pretty holistic there too from your perspective. And I'm glad you brought up the extended campuses as well. COTC is in a pretty unique position. I believe it's the only technical college in Ohio that operates and supports 4 campuses successfully. So that's pretty good claim to fame there. Extending these resources to these extended campuses. How does your team expand the student support to COTC students that may not be here in Newark?
We really have to keep in mind the kinds of students who are coming to these campuses. So Coshocton serves a very rural area. So we want to make sure that those students have the technology access they need, that they're able to come to campus and receive those services. Pataskala being a lot closer to, say, Broad Street there in Columbus, we see a lot more students who have those access, but maybe have different kinds of needs that they need met. And so we do provide success coaches on each of those campuses who get familiar and know those student populations. So, and form those relationships with those students so they have a point person there on campus. And same goes where we try to expand our tutoring services out to each campus as well and those major courses that are offered on each of those campuses to support those programs. So it's a little bit of customization, but a lot of it is just, we really try to understand our students and where they're coming from and then meet them where they're at.
Meeting them where they are. I like that. I like that slogan as well. I think that applies to the whole campus there. And in that case, I think there's clearly so many of these support services that no matter where these students are, they can help have their success fostered here as a part of these institutions. But I'm curious who is operating kind of all these different support services. Jamie, from your experience, is it mostly staff? Is it mostly faculty? Is it kind of a combination of both? What does that look like?
Student success and retention work, we always say that it is not one person's job, right? It is a collaborative team effort and a campus and a university-wide effort. And so it does involve all the faculty and all of the staff on campus. So within even our small, and I always, my team laughs because I always say we're small yet mighty. We can do a lot and serve a lot of students. We do have academic success coaches who are full-time staff who really support the daily operations within our office and meet with students on a daily basis and respond to those emails and those text messages and do that critical outreach and responding to students, and they're really focused on the initiatives. We have, in fact, I think 31 plus initiatives and programs that we provide out of our office that the staff are overseeing, and they have such a vast array of experience and knowledge base, and they really can tap into what they love to do as well in their work with students. And so you can see that come through their work as well. 2 of them intimately know Ohio State Newark and graduated from this campus, and another from the Columbus campus. And so their knowledge about being an Ohio State student is also something very unique that they can talk with students about, and they can share about their time here on our campus and Columbus campus as well. It doesn't go away from saying that faculty are such an integral part of our partners as well. Faculty teach within a lot of our programs and initiatives through our learning communities. We partner with them doing outside of the classroom activities, going on experiential learning trips. And so the relationships that students build with our staff and with faculty help to, again, support their overall success and their experience on campus. And we want that to be a very positive one for them. We aren't in classrooms, so that's where a lot of students spend time. And so, our partnership with faculty and allowing them to communicate with us when they have concerns about students inside the classroom. And I know with Troy at COTC as well, this is a huge part of what we do. And those academic and personal challenges and barriers come into play inside the classroom. And so faculty do communicate with us and make referrals to us for our office so that we can conduct that critical outreach to students to provide some proactive interventions and some resources and get them connected to some support and things that they really need to do well inside the classroom as well. So it is a team effort, certainly, here.
Yeah, that's going to be a consistent theme as we go along, I'm sure. Troy, anything to add to that from the COTC side?
Well, and just like Jamie said, just because we have the student success in our department titles, but student success is everyone's job, and we're very similar. You have to have those close relationships with the people that are working with students in the classrooms in order to identify when students need that additional assistance, and so to put us in contact with them and help with any kind of remediation or resource connection they might need, whether that's through an early alerting system or an early concern system, and then we also have full-time faculty who help in our tutoring center and things like that, and then even with the staff, we have 6 full-time professional success coaches, and then we have our tutoring services that includes peer, professional, and the faculty tutoring, and then we also have peer opportunities too. So we offer that practicum with our social work program in order to have students work with that as well. So it's the whole campus, including the students and the faculty and staff, and those partnerships are all just incredibly important for what we do.
That's a great segue, because I do really feel like everybody is invested in the idea of student success kind of at large. People are wearing many, many hats when it comes to that. You mentioned the academic support services, the personal support services. I can't imagine from a student perspective that anything is more personal than being helped maybe by a fellow student. So to kind of follow up on what you had asked, Troy, I want to turn to Jamie here. How have you seen that peer-to-peer support play a part in the overall idea of student success here at Newark?
Nothing is more impactful than peer-to-peer learning and support. Students go to their peers first, whether that's in person or online, when they need information or feedback. And so we try to tap into that and leverage that at Ohio State Newark through several different ways. In our office, for example, we employ about 8 academic peer coaches who mentor new incoming students within our learning community programs.
Okay.
We also connect any student that we meet with that comes in our office who could benefit from talking with an upper level student as a peer mentor. And connect them, and they may share similarities with each other, whether it's major or families or challenges or just experience in general with the transition to college. So in academic support services, we also heavily rely, I know Dr. Weaver does, with providing peers to peer tutoring for writing support in the Math Learning Center, as well as tutors, and tutoring other courses and disciplines. So a lot of those students have either taken that course previously here on campus at Ohio State Newark, or they have just come in with the expertise in that area, which allows them to help their peers and help them do better when they're taking those classes. In academic advising, for example, they also integrate peer mentoring into our university exploration classes. They also are starting to use like a peer advising role, so that peer-to-peer assistance can help through the advising with some very particular aspects within their department as well.
All this kind of encouraging help-seeking behaviors, right,
Absolutely.
for these students. That's a big buzzword I remember we talked about. Troy, how have you seen that manifested on the COTC side?
I do think it is a little bit less so on the COTC side than at OSU Newark, where our students are here typically for, only 2 to 3 years before they're looking for that transfer or they're looking to develop their career. But also we are, all of our campuses are very commuter. So we don't have any students who are on campus that we're able to, make those connections. But we still will develop these kind of relationships with students and help them form study groups and connections and relationships with each other, so they do get that peer-to-peer support in a slightly more informal manner. And of course, we do offer the peer-to-peer support in our tutoring center too. And then I also alluded to our practicum experience, our social work program. We take a student who interns with the Student Success Center and helps operate our Student Resource Center, forming those community relationships and helping students get connected with these personal supports, which I think having a student help make that connection and a student share their experience with that goes a long way towards helping a student access those resources too and share in that experience.
No doubt. No doubt. And I do like the term, I think you used it, Jamie, is it is a team effort. And that involves other teams here, right? I'm using air quotes in this, and departments like financial aid and academic advising, for example, somehow get involved with the student success process. Troy, in what ways do departments like that get involved here? At what point or points do they intervene?
All the time, pretty much. And when we're working with students, a lot of times what we're getting at is, what is this student's needs and how can we help meet those needs or alleviate whatever obstacle that student may be experiencing. And so in our conversations with students, we're able to form those connections and make a soft handoff to those areas of the college and in the community where they may be able to access the best assistance. So whether that's, working with our counseling services to make a connection for some mental health counseling, or to student financial services for something like an emergency grant in order to help with a car repair, to help them get to classes and things like that. It's making that connection as the students need it. And especially I think it helps having that holistic framework and model. And just like in Jamie's office, working so closely with those, with Bruce Weaver's office and academic advising to have those connection points really helps us identify when a student has a concern, because it works both ways. A student will bring up to their academic advisor, hey, I'm also having this concern, and then help make that connection back to us so we can help with that as well.
Yeah. And some of this, obviously, you take a big proactive approach. I'm sure that's something that your departments have emphasized, but some of this can be kind of reactive at the same time.
Absolutely. And I think traditionally a lot of student success is reactive by its nature. A student feels they have, a concern with the class, or a faculty member notices a student wasn't attending or paying attention and makes that connection in a reactive manner. Even if it's early and quick, it's still, after things have been noticed that something may be a concern, how can we help?
Yeah.
But I think a big shift in student success that I know this is, really important on Jamie's side as well, is being proactive with it, providing opportunities for students to learn before it becomes, a concern or a problem to be addressed.
Yeah.
And so for us, we're being really proactive with things like our workshop offerings, with our communications to students. We've gotten a lot more involved in texting students weekly. I kind of make a joke sometimes that I don't mind annoying students into student success. So so they'll get text messages on their phone and emails from their success coach and things like that, just to say, hey, we're here and we're here to help too. So it's definitely a shift from the reactive to the proactive, but we do have both of those elements kind of working all the time.
Certainly. And Jamie, in terms of some of those, what seem like reactive responses would be things like academic difficulty, stop outs, financial holds, things like that. How does your team help to address those challenges?
A lot of the work that we're trying to do is more proactive, but you do have those reactive measures that are still there that students face. And then you have to, on the ground, provide as much support as you can for that student to get back into whatever that might be, whether it's good academic standing. So one of our academic success coaches, I mentioned they all have specialties, areas, and expertise. And one of them oversees our stop out outreach. And so we refer to a stop out as any student that is enrolled in the current term and is not enrolled in the following term, in the next term. So we very rarely will get a student that just forgets to register for the next semester classes. And so many of them that have not registered, there's a reason for why they haven't. And so there's something in front of them that they're facing, whether that's a barrier that's preventing them from re-enrolling. So when we reach out to students who re-enroll, we do it very personally. And it is, our outreach is very unique to each one of our students. So we know what locks they have. We know what academic standing or difficulties they might be facing as well, right? But there's also that's pieces that we try to put together before we reach out to the student. So when we do, then we can hear from the student about what additional things that we have no idea that may be going on with the student. So what we know never tells us their entire story. And so putting it all together so that we can connect them to the resources that they really need and the support to help them re-enroll. A lot of our students sometimes struggle with financial holds or paying balances on accounts, and some of it is for different reasons. College is very expensive.
Yeah.
I remember, and it's a lot more now than it was when I was in school. And the financial aid process is often difficult to understand. And so we do monitor those holds and outreach to students so that we can work with them to develop a financial plan and help families and parents get through that process of understanding. We cannot do that without our partners, our friends in Student Financial Services. So as Troy mentioned, like this is a daily basis that we are connecting with our partners in other departments across campus that I mentioned before. So I wish we had the funds. We unfortunately can't pay off the balances of all of our students, but we do recognize that sometimes that there are some instances where we can help support students that are in financial difficulty. And that could be like, as Troy mentioned on the COTC side, we also have a Newark emergency grant for Ohio State Newark as well. And we have some completion grant initiatives that textbooks, emergency textbook assistance. We do try to put together also some free resources for students, but we do have some funding to really help those students that need that additional support to get through.
It goes back to that individualized approach a little bit, kind of meeting each student where they are. That's the thing you'll hear a whole lot when you talk about these two institutions. And obviously, these two institutions partner on a lot of different things. The cost-shared model is extremely important to how this whole campus operates. But these efforts seem a little bit distinct to me. So Troy, can you confirm that for me? When it comes to this campus's student success efforts, how often are COTC and Ohio State Newark collaborating with each other?
Yeah, so we still collaborate often on certain initiatives. We've partnered on First Generation College Celebration Week for our first generation students at both institutions. And we really try to have smooth transitions between students who want to transfer from COTC to OSU Newark. Students are still going to be familiar with those resources already. But because our areas are separate, we do have unique student populations in a lot of ways. Kind of independent programs and initiatives really allow us to serve these students in that individual basis in the best way we can, while still making connections to those departments that are cost shared, and that students at both institutions have full access to, like student life, like our library, student financial services, all of those additional student supports. And so we do have a really strong partnership, and we have a strong, I think, philosophical connection as well.
Yeah.
But we do have two distinct operations for student success so that we can best serve who our students are.
Well, regardless of where these students are getting the support, regardless of which side of the house it's coming from, it's working for them. It seems that many of these students are certainly benefiting from what this campus and these two institutions have to offer. So I think it's worth hearing a little bit more about maybe some of these specific students that you are working with. Jamie, do any particularly compelling student success stories come to mind that maybe help showcase the tangible impact of these support services that you are all offering?
A couple of students come to mind. Now, one particular student was struggling transitioning to college in general, which oftentimes occurs with the transition. They didn't feel equipped with their study strategies, their self-regulation. They weren't doing well in their classes, and they did find themselves on academic probation, which is another program within our office that we try to support students through. So they met biweekly and benefited the most by meeting biweekly with one of our academic success coaches, but they really had some particular skills that they wanted to build themselves. We were able to also connect them with other student support offices on campus that we've talked about for their holistic success. They attended some of our student success workshops that they were most interested in. Following semester, the student even registered for one of my self-regulation student success classes that we teach on campus. And so they were really starting to take this independent approach of their own learning. And you could see the growth that they were, experiencing as well. And so I love still seeing them thrive on campus and still seeing them around on campus, knowing where they started from. And so that growth is something that is just so exciting to see for students.
Yeah. Part of the reason you're in it, right?
Absolutely. A lot of students face some personal challenges as well and some barriers. And so one that I consider a success could look you could take it a little bit differently. So I worked with a student that was caring for a family member with health issues, and they didn't have their own transportation, which is a challenge for some of our students. So attending classes became very difficult for them. This is one of the more complicated cases because we discussed, the implications of them dropping classes and what was in their best interest. And of course, that was going to affect their financial aid. And so again, I leaned on my friends in student financial services. But in the end, the student was able to successfully finish the courses that they did remain enrolled in. And they did remain in good academic standing. In the end, the student decided that it wasn't in their best interest to re-enroll the following term, and that sometimes is the best option for some of our students, and that is their pathway. But now that student is set up for success for when they do decide to return, and I do hear from them, and they are planning to return in the fall, and they stay in contact with me with how things are going. So that to me is a very different type, an example of success story that is just as rewarding for that student. Yes.
Certainly. Yeah, well said. I think those are great anecdotes. And Troy, from my experience, I love the motivation that a lot of these COTC students come in with. I'm curious if you have some of these success stories that you'd be willing to share.
Oh, absolutely. And just like Jamie said, student success affects students in great and small ways. Sometimes we're working with a student every week throughout a semester, and sometimes they drop by one time and, we talk to them, work with them a little bit, and they seem good to go.
You work your magic.
Exactly. I don't know about magic. And then I love the point, too, about, sometimes it's about having a hard conversation with the student about saying, hey, what's in your best interest? Do you need to drop a class at this time in order to give yourself the best opportunity to reach that goal, per that definition of student success that we kind of set early on. But, I think for our success coaches and our tutors, it's a big reason you keep coming back to student success is seeing a student overcome that challenge and accomplish a goal and have that kind of gleam in their eye again for it. And I mean, there was one student in particular really early on in the inception of the Holistic Student Success Center at COTC. She had been academically dismissed. So when you reach a certain point in your academic career, if your GPA falls below a certain amount, given your certain number of credit hours, there's a discussion and we may move to academically dismissed because at that point it may not be in your best interest to be at the college at that time. There may be some outside factors that, were impacting, your ability to attend classes, for instance, and things like that. But then there's also an opportunity where a student can get reinstated. So students who are dismissed come and talk to a committee, tell the story about what happened academically and say they want to try again. And this student, I was on the committee to, do the reinstatement. And she had previously failed the math class or was unsuccessful in her math class statistics 3 times. So the GPA was continually suffering. As she told her story, she was an immigrant student. Her parents had to go back to her home country for an emergency related to other family members. They were there for an extended amount of time, over a year, and she was here in the United States raising her 3 siblings by herself. And so obviously, a personal situation like that, school is not going to be at the forefront of her mind. Yeah. And so she told that story during her reinstatement, and we said, okay, well, we see the passion. She wanted to go into our nursing program and earn that degree and become a nurse and become an RN. And so we said, okay, well, we're going to connect you with our success coach early on, just have that conversation, see how we do, and go from there. And she ended up meeting with the success coach. We required them to meet with them twice throughout the semester. She met with our success coach on the Knox campus, Rachel Bailey, over 9 times throughout the course of that semester. Wow. Just having check-ins and touch bases and just conversations about how things were going. And then on that 4th attempt at the end of that semester, she sent a little message over to Rachel that just said, I passed math. Nice. And just seeing that little message, that little note, that little spark, the student achieve what had previously been such a huge obstacle is just, that's kind of why you do what you do, to see that student have that achievement. And for this student working with our student success services as closely as she did, I think helped her out and gave her the support she needed. But of course, it was her efforts that did it all. And a lot of what we were trying to do was just support those efforts that she was already going to put in. And so we were able to connect her with other resources like tutoring throughout the semester. And then she did graduate and receive her RN degree a year and a half later. So
that's spectacular.
That's great.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you both for sharing those stories. I hope that really paints a picture to all the listeners about the success that is out there for these students. I hope that really resonates with everybody at home. And I want you guys to have kind of the last word on this as we wrap things up. What would be your closing message to parents, prospective students, about the ways that students are set up for success when they attend the Newark campus? Troy, let's start with you on this one.
I would say first that we exist. A lot of students go through their academic career either not knowing or not thinking that they need to access support services. And we are here to see students be successful and achieve their goals no matter what kind of obstacles they're seeing. And even if there are no obstacles, if they just want to have a connection, to talk to somebody who understands their experience and support them in achieving whatever their goals are, that's what we're here for. And so we exist not just for the students who are struggling, but for every student. And we care about them not just as students, but as individuals.
That's awesome. I think you explained that very well. Jamie, what about those who choose to attend Ohio State Newark?
Oh, I love what Troy already said. I will say, there are so many resources out on campus, and we talked about help-seeking behavior. So I would just, to add to what Troy has already said, I would just encourage students to ask for help. Like, we are here. You have to be okay with asking for help. And it's not a bad thing, but it is so difficult for students to do. For whatever reason, whether they're embarrassed to do it or they've just never had asked for help before, which is oftentimes the case as well. But what is great about our campus is that we really all do work together for what's best for our students. So, we are a small, intimate campus at Ohio State Newark, but we have access to an enormous amount of resources and support.
Yeah.
And it is here, and we just want students to come and navigate their way through and utilizing the resources and support that are here. No one goes through college alone. Mm-hmm. You cannot do it on your own. And so the most successful students that I've seen in my career are those students that really integrate all of the support and resources within the very first week that they set foot on campus, because they know that they want to do the very best that they can.
Yeah. Safe to say that if any student out there asks for help here, there are methods of getting it to them. And you two have certainly helped us create a very informative episode today. That'll about do it for this edition of the Newark Collabcast. Jamie and Troy, you're obviously so well-versed in student success, and you've greatly helped the success of this episode today. So we appreciate you both being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you to all of you at home who are listening and supporting the Newark Collabcast. We'll be back to explore more about this impressive and collaborative campus next month. In the meantime, follow us on social media to tide you over. I promise it's very easy to find. Check out Ohio State Newark on all social platforms at Ohio State Newark. And for the COTC side, you can find them at COTC EDU. And you can check out our kickoff episode of the Newark Collabcast in this very podcast feed, Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Just scroll back or search. And if you want more information on the cost-shared partnership and the celebration we have going on for the 55th anniversary, go to go.osu.edu/55partnership or go.cotc.edu/55partnership. Until next time, I'm Blake Baker, and this has been the Newark Collabcast. Can't wait to connect with you again soon.